Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today we're going to talk about trade strategy, because if you are sitting at 1-1 or 0-2, you need to improve your team. I'm going to help you find what the right strategy is to get trades that are going to improve your team. Likewise, we're going to look at the waiver wires. We're going to look at who are the top priority pickups for this week. So you definitely want to check that out. Here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it was another insane weekend. It is crazy what's going on in the NFL this year. And obviously the big story is injuries. And I'm sure that there's lots of you out there that are kind of freaking out right now, because there have been a lot of injuries, a lot of new news today. I mean, today, Saquon Barkley, Cortland Sutton, both put just done for the year. That's it. Torn ACLs, they're done. And tons of high ankle sprains and Achilles injuries and knee injuries. And I mean, it's just unbelievable how tough it is out there. And I know a lot of people are freaking out, especially if you're at 1-1 or 0-2 and you're dealing with a lot of injuries and it just seems to be getting worse. And I'm going to tell you, take a deep breath, relax. Remember, the injuries are affecting lots of different teams right now in different ways. So in my teams right now so far, only have had a couple of negative events, like the Blake Jarwin thing last week. That was a negative event for like two of my teams. Cortland Sutton hurts one of my teams. I'm still waiting on Galladay to come back, and it's kind of hurting my wide receiver play. But here's what you need to do, and I'm going to give you some suggestions for how to complete a successful trade with another team. Now, the first thing you want to do is just go and analyze what they have. How are their running backs? How are their wide receivers? How's their tight end situation? See where they are strong and see where they are weak. And if your need is something that they're strong in, and you have something available on your team that would help them on a weakness of their team, that's how trades happen, man. It's got to be a win-win situation. I mean, today, you always get the garbage trade offers. Someone wants to get James Robinson, who I have on several of my teams. But in one of the leagues, he wanted James Robinson. And so he offered me a package deal with two players. And one of them was Gronkowski. I'm like, I don't want Gronkowski. Who wants him? So anyway, if you send a mutually beneficial trade, something that will help his team and will help your team, that can absolutely work in helping to improve the strength of your team. You look at where you're strong, where you have what good pieces you have, and how can you translate that into a trade. Another good idea is if you have a very, very good performing player, a top 12 player, either a running back or a wide receiver, and your team is really floundering, try to maybe do a 1-for-2 deal where you offer up this superior one player and you look to get yourself like maybe a low-end 1 and a 2, or something like that. Like, a running back for a lower running back and a wide receiver, something like that. Those are the kind of trades that work very well right now. And of course, you got to work the waiver wire. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But, that's a big part of having success with trades in fantasy football. So you got to look at the other team. You want to help the other team, but you also want that other team to help you. All right. And don't make it a one-sided trade. No one's ever going to give you, unless they're not paying attention, they're not going to give you that trade. They're just going to reject it. So, anyway, more gonzo games this week, man. I got to say, I was not expecting this. I was not expecting the kind of performances that we are seeing right now. 2 50-point performances this week. You had Dak Prescott and you had Aaron Jones. Unbelievable, insane. That whole Atlanta-Dallas game almost broke fantasy football. There was so much fantasy goodness going around in that game, but surprisingly not to Julio Jones. He got like 2 points, 2.5 points. That he and I have, of course, Julio Jones in one of my leagues. I'm still waiting for him to do something. But anyway, what I noticed is that there was 6 quarterbacks last week that all scored over 30 fantasy points, which is way outside the realm of what quarterbacks usually get. A normal quarterback will get you about 20 points with standard scoring. And so it was these 6 guys. It was Prescott, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, of course, he was fantastic. Cam Newton, Kyler Murray, and Matt Ryan. Okay, now let me just say the most surprising of that group is Cam Newton. And I do have to apologize on my start sits when I told you to sit Cam Newton, and I also told you to sit Kyler Murray. That was a mistake on both those parts. I'm going to be more careful going farther. But kudos to Bill Belichick and his evil genius, man, because that was not expected. I was not expecting that at all. But I also noticed with these teams, and it's also kind of surprising that Patrick Mahomes was 7th. He didn't score 30. He was like at 29 points. These outsized returns are not going to last. I mean, these defenses are going to kick up. There's a couple of defenses that are doing very well, but then you had surprisingly like the Bills defense did terrible this past week. How do you allow Miami to score 28 points? I don't even understand how that happened. But anyway, these things are going to revert back to a more normal situation. And for instance, like Josh Allen, apparently his schedule gets much tougher. I mean, he started out with 2 cream puffs. I mean, the Jets and the Dolphins. Wow, of course he did fantastic. He might be a sell high candidate at this point. And you could probably get a little bit more for him than you thought you could. That's a good idea, actually, because I think he's a sell high. It's going to be a rougher patch for the next few games, like the next month. So sell now. Get him out of your lineup now. And there's so many good options that are available as an alternative. But the thing I noticed about all these teams, all these quarterbacks, is their teams are relatively injury-free. They got a lot of high-performing players. And so those players then are getting outsized returns as well. And so that's very good for them as well. And so, these guys have kind of avoided the injury bug, these teams, and that's good going forward. But of course, if you're on a team which is getting ravaged by injuries, it's going to negatively impact what these players can do. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So let's get to the waiver wire, man. I mean, who should you be looking to pick up this week? And let's start with the quarterback. And I got to tell you, man, after 2 weeks here, I got to tell you, I'm ready to throw in the towel on Tom Brady and Carson Wentz and Phil Rivers at this point. Now, Phil Rivers' schedule is pretty good for the next month. He's got some really nice matchups, so he might be worth keeping around. And Carson Wentz has Cincinnati, which if he can't get it done against Cincinnati, he's not going to get it done at all. I would definitely probably drop Tom Brady this week if I had him. I don't have him on any of my leagues. Carson Wentz, if he doesn't get it done in week 3 against Cincinnati, I would drop him. And Phil Rivers, again, I have not been big on Phil Rivers. He has been completely underwhelming. 214 yards and 1 TD last week. I mean, that's nothing for fantasy. So anyway, those are guys that are definitely on my chopping block list right now. But who could you pick up? Well, I got to tell you, man, my favorite, this is a guy I got a lot of shares of because I have a lot of deep leagues at 20 round drafts. Gardner Minshew, who is doing fantastic. I just love what he's doing. 6 touchdowns so far this year, and that is outstanding. Averaging 3 per game. Yesterday's game was totally crazy with the score as well. Certainly an unexpected result there. But I got to say, Minshew's doing great. He's distributing the targets around. He's getting lots of production. I think he's a startable asset, and I'd certainly rather start Minshew than any of these 3 guys this next week. I'm just that's my overall opinion. So I think he's a great pickup if you're looking to pick up a quarterback. But let me just tell you this: if your quarterback's doing all right, okay. I would not recommend getting a second quarterback. You don't need it. Unless you have a really deep league, 8 bench slots or more, don't roster a second quarterback because you don't need it. There's these great guys. They're all just sitting on the waiver wire. Just, go pick them up. The other ones were a little bit more risky for me, but still they did fantastic in week 2. But the rookies, man, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. And let me tell you, we're not going to see Tyrod Taylor again. It's Justin Herbert's team now. There's no way they're bringing back Tyrod Taylor. It only took 1 week for him to lose his starting job this time. What did it take in Cleveland? Like 4 weeks before, 4 weeks before, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Baker Mayfield, before Baker Mayfield took over. So anyway, yeah, we're not going to see Tyrod Taylor anymore. It's going to be Justin Herbert. They both were great last week. High volume, lots of production. Burrow threw the ball like over 60 times. That's a crazy number. But with that kind of volume, you're going to see enough for fantasy production. They are risky as rookies. There's the high risk of interceptions and turnovers. So I'm not, I'm not as keen on getting these guys. I don't know if I would trust them to start yet, but they are certainly worth picking up if you're in a deeper league and you got some dud of a quarterback sitting on your bench that you don't want to deal with anymore. I'd say go out and try to get one of these guys. I think they're both great. So now running backs, I'm not recommending dropping any running backs right now, but one that I've really got a red flag out on is Todd Gurley, who's getting no passing work. I can't believe, with the volume of passes that Matt Ryan has been doing, how he has not been feeding any pass work to Gurley. Gurley's got like 2 pass attempts. That was in week 1, 0 last week. It really limits his upside. And I got to say, I'm a little bit bewildered by his usage and his utilization. They had a goal line play, and he was not out there on the goal line play. I don't get that at all. If it's one thing that Gurley is known for, it's for the goal line work, getting the touchdowns. They didn't use him. And, of course, they didn't get the touchdown. But anyway, the other one who I'm saying you don't really need to worry about, don't even look at it, because I know I like to say that you should look at the volume, like the volume of touches, the volume of targets. And Frank Gore got 21 touches last week, but man, 3 yards per carry, just absolutely not worth your time, not worth your effort, no fantasy value there. And unfortunately, that's kind of what Todd Gurley's doing too. So that's very disturbing. And of course, I've got a lot of shares of Todd Gurley, so we'll see if they can pick up his role a little bit and give him some touchdowns. Man, that's what he needs to get. But as far as pickups this week, some guys I really like, Devonta Freeman, who should get signed this week with all the injuries that happen. Everyone's talking about the Giants are going to sign him. Yeah, pick him up. Absolutely. If he's available on the waiver wire, he would be my top choice to pick up this week because he would get a prominent role in that backfield immediately. And, I would not start him. I don't think he's a startable asset, but he's definitely someone you should have on your bench because you want to see what's going to happen there. Also, from the same team, New York Giants, Dion Lewis, I think is absolutely worth a pickup. He had 10 rushes and 5 targets after Saquon went down, and so the 5 targets are very valuable. Both him and Wayne Gallman are worth rostering, but if Freeman comes in, we're talking a 3-headed monster here. So they're very risky. Not super keen on picking up Dion Lewis. He's a low priority target for me, so I wouldn't bother with that. Now, one that I really like, and actually I was very busy picking him up in the drafts when I was, last month. But Jerick McKinnon seems to be set up very well right now for a massively increased role on that offense. Now that Raheem Mostert is injured and is not going to play, Tevin Coleman is injured. He probably will play this week, so it's going to be just the two of them. But McKinnon, he didn't get much last week. He got 3 touches, but he turned that into 77 yards and a touchdown. So that's amazing. He's looking really good in the limited work that he's getting, and plus he is the pass catching back. The pass catching situation in San Francisco is just a total mess right now. There's a distinct lack of passing options, so McKinnon is definitely going to be involved there. He is a high priority target for me if you don't have him already, and he's very low rostered, only 20% of teams have him rostered right now. So definitely look for Jerick McKinnon and get a bid on him if you can. Darrell Henderson is another one who I like. Again, check your waiver wire, man, because he might be sitting there. But I got to say, the Rams backfield is looking very complicated. Last week it was Malcolm Brown. This week it was Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers is now injured, so he's dealing with that. Who's going to be the main guy going forward? I'd probably put my money on Darrell Henderson over Malcolm Brown. But, last week, 12 touches, plus 2 receptions. I think it was on 3 targets, so that's pretty good. 15 is if they're getting 15 touches and targets, to me, that's like a borderline flex play. So if they can get just a little bit more volume, that's a startable asset. So Henderson, absolutely worth picking up if he's available in your league. Another one that is interesting, but I really would only be interested in PPR leagues is Mike Davis of Carolina. Obviously, CMC dealing with an injury, probably going to miss a month or more. So after CMC went down, he got 8 targets. So that's great. And in a PPR league, that's very valuable. He caught all 8 of his targets for 74 yards last week. PPR, that's a really good result. That's 15.4 points. So I think he's excellent in PPR. I would not bother with him, though, in half or standard leagues. I just don't think he's going to get enough there to be worth it. But, yeah, definitely look for him on PPR. Now, as far as wide receivers go, I'm not looking to drop any wide receivers at this point either. I do want to mention that A.J. Green, who had a terrible game last week, only had 3 receptions, but the 13 targets, man, that you can't pass that up. If he's available, you might want to look. You might want to look to see if anybody drops him this week because they're just frustrated with the fact that he got so little production. But 13 targets is nothing that is extremely good. That is very high usage. And he'll be better. And likewise, if you have AJ Green, he's a sell high target right now. I would absolutely put him out to bid and try to improve your team elsewhere. Because again, I'm not real enthusiastic about him. His age, his injury history. He's hot right now with the volume. You can sell that. You can utilize that. And so that's my opinion on AJ Green. But I'm not really looking to drop any wide receivers now unless they're on injured, even on an injured reserve, a season-ending injury, right? That's the other thing. The injured reserve is different this year. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's no longer a 6-week time period that they would miss. It's only 3 weeks. So you got guys like Le'Veon Bell who are on IR, and a lot of times if a player went to IR, you just dump them. You don't want to keep them on your team. But because of this shorter time frame, you can definitely keep them on your team. And I'm keeping Bell on the teams that I drafted him in. I think I only have one, but anyway, he'll be back. So definitely keep that in mind. So only season-ending injuries would I drop like a receiver. So let's talk about some other great performances. And I got to tell you, the one that I think you should absolutely check your waiver wire to put a bid out on is if Robbie Anderson is available. I think he's only rostered in about 60% of leagues. And he was a very high priority late round target for me in my drafts. I got him in almost every draft I got, and he was always my last receiver taken. He is an every week starter right now. Okay, he is an RB2 every week. You can put him in there with confidence. He's had 19 targets in 2 weeks. That is excellent usage. He's being very productive as well. The loss of CMC also will help his utilization. So anyway, I'd say go get Robbie Anderson on your team. Yeah, he is a great option this year. Another one that was freed from Adam Gase, and so he is going to be an outstanding choice this season. I also like N'Keal Harry, who really showed up this past week. 12 targets. So surprising. I swear I did not expect Cam Newton to get like 300, almost 400 yards passing. That was not in the realm of possibilities in my brain for what Cam would do this week. So anyway, but he was the top receiver on that team. He out targeted Edelman, who only got 11 targets. So I got to tell you, man, especially in PPR, he got 8 catches for 72 yards. That's excellent. So in PPR, very valuable. I think he's a great option. Look for him. See if he's on the waiver wire. Try to pick him up. Likewise, Deshaun Jackson, who's only rostered in about half of leagues, he's gotten 16 targets in the first 2 weeks. So that is great. And his number of snaps substantially increased in week 2 over week 1. So that portends to more utilization in future weeks. So I think, he's a great flex option right now. And again, is available in about half of the leagues out there. So go check your waiver wire, see if he's available, see if you can pick him up. Also, another guy from last week who still barely didn't move that much on people picking him up last week, but they should, man. Russell Gage of Atlanta, once again, got 9 targets this week. He got, 12 last week. And as long as they're not utilizing Gurley in the passing game and Hayden Hurst is still coming along there, I think he's a flex option, man. He's getting great volume and he's being very productive as well. So Russell Gage, check again. If you didn't pick him up last week, see if he's still there. He might be. Pick him up. Get him on your team. And then finally, the thing about Cortland Sutton happened, breaking this afternoon that his season is over. So the rookie KJ Hamler, all of a sudden his value goes up. Although, again, it's a rookie situation, not real big on the rookies. He's going to be more potent in the second half of the season, someone like Hamler. So I'd maybe just stay away. let someone else pick up Hamler. They will probably drop Hamler in a couple of weeks because they're not going to be able to start him, and they got to make room for, bye weeks and stuff like that. You'll probably be able to pick him up later, but he's definitely a guy that should be on your radar now that, Denver is dealing with all these injuries. Boy, man, they just all of a sudden don't look that great with what's going on in that team, man. It's really sad. So finally, man, let's go and look at the tight ends. And I already talked about this guy earlier, but as far as if you got Gronk, drop him. You don't need him. You're not going to be able to trade him for anything, so just drop him. But there are two tight ends, that actually look really great. And so absolutely, if you've happened to be the person that drafted Gronk, or you took someone like Blake Jarwin, right? And you're still looking to fill that tight end spot. Well, here's two names for you that I think are both excellent. And the first one is Drew Sample of the Cincinnati Bengals, who, CJ Uzomah got injured last week, is out. I don't know if he's on injured reserve, but he's out for a while. Drew Sample got 10 targets last week. So it was about a 16.4% target share. That volume is outstanding for a tight end. Obviously, Cincinnati is going to be behind in almost every game this year. Joe Burrow is going to have to pass the ball a ton like he did last week. So I think Sample is a great play for a tight end at this point. I also really like, going back to Dallas, man, Dalton Schultz, who got 10 targets in Saturday's game, in that crazy game that was going on against the Falcons. So he is also an excellent pickup going forward. And if he gets the kind of volume that I was expecting Blake Jarwin was going to get, I think he's going to be very productive this year. So two tight ends available here that have very good volume ahead of them. Definitely go and pick them up. Both these guys I think are great. So that's it. That's my podcast for today. So let's just review real quick. So quarterbacks, I like Gardner Minshew. I like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, but not. I don't trust him to start them yet. But maybe if you want to roster him, if you got a deep bench. As far as running backs, Devonta Freeman, Deion Lewis, Jarrett McKinnon, and Darrell Henderson would probably be my top targets. Mike Davis is also a good one for PPR. Wide receivers, let's see here. Robbie Anderson is my favorite, so absolutely check to see if he's available on your waiver wire. But N'Keal Harry, Deshaun Jackson, Russell Gage, KJ Hamler to a lesser extent, but those first three names definitely priority targets this week. And then both the tight ends, great opportunity going forward, Sample and Schultz. So look for those guys. And here's the other thing, man. When you're going to put your waiver claims down tomorrow. On Tuesday, which is today. I'm filming this the night before. Put your waiver claims down. On Wednesday, check the waiver wire again. See who people were dropping. And again, you could see someone like A.J. Green just falling into the waiver wires. I'd pick him up if he falls in there, if someone drops him. So there you go. So some strategy for you, some names for you. So go ahead and utilize that. Good luck in week 3. The craziness will continue, I'm sure, and we're going to see what happens. But anyway, this is an exciting season. It's different. Everything is weird, right? And there's all these crazy performances that are happening that, again, you usually don't see till the end of the season. To see them here in week 1 and week 2 is nuts. So we're going to have to wait and see. When are the defenses going to really start setting up and shutting down these outsized plays that are happening? Because, to have 7 quarterbacks score over 30 points in a single week is nuts. That just doesn't happen. But it is this year, so welcome to Fantasy 2020. So anyway, thank you again very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you got a comment about any of these players or any other players, please let me know, all right? So thank you very much, everybody. Have yourself a great day, and good luck with Week 3.